What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. I appreciate you guys clicking on the video here today. Captain Cody Davis here with you guys again, as always. And as always, like I said, I appreciate you guys clicking on the videos, and I appreciate all the support and all the positive feedback I've been getting on the channel. A little bit extra here lately. Been having a lot of people come up to me and just say I love the videos and keep them up and everything. So that's awesome to hear. And just got kind of a hodgepodge video for you guys here in this one. This one might run a little bit long just because we've got a few different things we're going to go over, a few different things we're going to talk about. One being just the overall status of Lake Okeechobee right now. That's probably what we'll start with. We're going to do a little Roland Martin Marine Series qualifier recap, how that event went for me and just as a whole. We're going to talk about my predictions for this Bassmaster EQ that is going to be here this week. Actually, by the time you guys are watching this video, they might be already started the competition. And then we're just going to kind of, I guess we'll end it with what I see for Lake Okeechobee over the foreseeable future. And what I mean by that is just fishing down here over the next couple of months. So we'll just kind of, dive right into it just so I can try to keep this as short as possible for you guys. So as of today, the lake level is 1364. And it's a great level. It's a little bit lower than average. And if I'm being 100% honest with you guys, it's kind of a little bit lower than I would typically like, just by a hair. I really like that 14 and a quarter, 14 foot this time of year, even up to 14 and a half. And I'll get into why. But before I do, I want to talk about, like, this really has nothing to do with it, but it kind of does. I know Scott Martin did a reel the other day. I think it was like yesterday, the day before, from the Clewiston boat ramp. And I agree with everything Scott put out in that video, 100%. And I purposely didn't read the comments, and I don't know if there were any negative comments on that reel or not. But the reason I didn't is because I know how people are nowadays, and I feel like they're going to think that us as, anglers on Lake Okeechobee are kind of never happy. And what I mean by that is you guys hear me and a lot of other my colleagues, I guess you can call them fellow anglers, preach for low water. And I think I kind of got the hint from Scott where he's kind of in the same state of mind that I am, where we might have the water be a little bit too low, too soon, too early in the season, if that makes sense. So what people don't understand is this lake, just like the bass that live in it, are very sensitive and very fickle. It is a very sensitive resource. I tell people all the time, as big and mean, as aggressive as these big Lake Okeechobee bass can be, you deal with a day like we've got today where there's a little bit of a cold front or something, and these fish totally shut down. They don't like it. They're very sensitive, very fragile, as is Lake Okeechobee. It's a natural lake. It's not man-made, and us human beings have done a really good job at messing it up. So when it comes to us managing it, it does need to be managed properly, very meticulously. And, one thing right now is we love the lake level the way it was all spring, all summer. We had that low lake. If I'm being honest with you guys, I think we were about 1.5 feet away from having a completely brand new lake. We were seeing the benefits of the low lake. I'm sure all of you have that have been on the lake. All the new submerged grass, new vegetation. We did get a decent amount of cattail growth, round reeds, Kissimmee grass. We did get new emergent grass as well as submerged grass. But if we would have had another 1.5 feet lower, those emergent grasses and submerged grasses would have grown out further out towards the main lake, and it would have, really kind of hit the restart button on this place, which would have been awesome. But now once we get into these winter months, really from now through February, really through March, this is when there's a couple of different things that happen here. Which, again, I don't know this 100% because I'm seeing changes on the lake, so I'm just keep being fully transparent with you guys. These fish need to find protected areas for them to have a successful spawn. So they're looking for clean water, clean bottom, and protected areas that are going to be protected from these harsh north winds that we get this time of year that are going to blow 30 to 35 mile an hour once these fronts come through. And, they're protected from that muddy water intruding into these areas. And obviously, us as anglers, we love these areas as well because it enables us to go fishing on days that aren't, exactly perfect due to wind and fronts and things. And, what kind of the problem is the lake is at 30, which is, it's not too low, but if we're not going to get any rain events, which I don't really see us having a drastic rain event, but it is Florida, you never know, over the next couple of months, this lake may drop too much, which is going to kind of take away some of these major spawning areas in the back for these fish. And as well as it might get too low where we start losing some of these areas that have come back. So they drop the lake, and now all of this submerged eelgrass or shrimp grass, whatever it is now on dry land, and it dries out. With that being said, though, once we get into that time of year, the spring and the summer, if it gets way low and then comes back up again, it could regrow as well. But more or less, I'm just worried about these fish not having great areas to spawn and not having a successful spawn. But at the same time, I have noticed that a lot of these bigger fish, specifically, have been spawning further out. Does that make sense? There was, and I guess this is going to, I guess we're kind of jumping ship here, but as far as the status of the lake, the lake looks awesome right now. A couple of things, like just to point out, these harsh winds aren't dirtying the water nearly as much just because there's not as much water there to fluctuate. Does that make sense? So if you are slightly in the back behind the main lake hardline, even if it's blowing in there hard, it might be rough, but you'll notice the water is not nearly as silty or as muddy as years past. And that's just because there's just not as much water movement. On top of that, it's crazy how quick water will clean up right now. I fished an area this weekend where we had a slight little bit of wind blowing in and had some silt blowing in there on Saturday afternoon. Got there Sunday morning and complained. We were literally trying to find dirtier water. The water got too clean just overnight that quick. And that's due to all the submerged vegetation and things that we've gotten back. So really cool. So that's what I mean. The lake's really healthy right now. It does look really good. We did have awesome benefits from the low lake this year, so we're just going to have to monitor everything as it goes. But as far as like getting to what the fish are doing, we see all this new stuff. We see all these new areas where they have been traditionally spawning that have, over the last few years, that have changed in appearance to us, and in some ways good, some ways bad. Some places look phenomenal. And I know a couple weeks ago when we did have that big wave of spawners come in, I say big wave. We had that wave of spawners come in. You could go to certain stretches where you thought they should be, and you did catch fish that were on beds, but they just seemed to be smaller, whereas some of these really big ones were spawning more out than you would think. And that just has to do with how the lake's set up. The lake's dropping. The fish do not like spawning with water dropping over their heads, even though it is a slow drop. I don't know exactly how fast it's falling, but these fish can detect that a lot better than we can. And we've got all this technology and these apps, but they feel that, however they detect it. So I think that's had them spawning on the outside. Also, we've had very stable conditions up until really this weekend. So the water was clean out there. The water was shallow enough for them to spawn near the outside. And I think that's what they were doing. There were certain areas that we were finding really all around the lake that if they were set up a certain way, that's where some of these really big bags of fish were coming from. I say bags of fish. Of course, these were being caught during the week, far away from a tournament, which is how it always happens. But I know of many 30-pound stringers that were caught, and the fish were definitely spawning. And a lot of these people that were having these 30-pound stringers a couple weeks ago, were catching 50 to 60 fish in a day. So pretty crazy. I know, there was a Bass Nation tournament that took, what did it take to win? 51 pounds in 2 days. No, it was more than that, wasn't it? I don't remember. I know he had 31 day one, and I think like 26 or 27 day two. And I know that gentleman was catching some of these fish that he had keyed in on that were spawning more towards the outside, kind of away from what everyone else was doing. So that all is long and gone right now because we're not going to have some spawners probably for a little bit with the conditions we've got, but just something to keep in mind and something that's pretty cool to see. As far as the Roland Martin Marine Series qualifying event we just had, me and Kelly, I don't want to say we did horrible, but we did. Lost fish, made a difference, but really didn't make a difference, if that makes sense. We were talking about it. We did lose some key fish. I lost a good one day two. Kelly lost a decent one day two, and he lost an absolute giant day one. But over the grand scheme of things, with how everything played out, yes, we would have jumped up some places. It really didn't cost us any money. But overall, this event was very, very tough. Going into it, the beginning of the week, if you'd asked me what the weights were going to be, I'd have thought it was going to take 60 pounds to win this event. It was a 2-day event, so 30 pounds both days is what I thought it was going to take. And I thought there were going to be multiple people, multiple teams in that 50-pound range when it was all said and done. But as we got closer to the event, each day, my prediction weight went way down. And it was pretty much what it took 50 pounds to win the event. I said between 48 and 50. And that was just going to be the leader. And then, my buddies Matt and Nick got second with 49. There was like a 46, I think, was third. Mike had 46, I believe it was. 45. And then the weights drastically dropped off because someone's always going to catch them. But when it comes to, it's easy, it's a little harder when you got to think about, being consistent for a 2-day event. But then I figured the weights were going to drop off just because, man, like I just said, this lake and these fish are so touchy. We had what I would call almost ideal conditions for a spawn. We had a warming trend. We had a full moon. But it was almost like, the moon does play a role, but I feel like there's times where the moon doesn't. And that's what happened a couple of weeks ago. We weren't on a new moon, we weren't on a full moon, we were kind of right in the middle of a moon phase. But the conditions got right, and that's when I think those fish pulled in, and there was a wave of spawners that moved in. It wasn't a major wave, but it was a wave of fish that did that. Coming into this moon, we had a full moon, we had a warming trend, we had the wind dying, but it got so warm that I believe it was like Thursday, the water temp at the end of the day was 77, 78 degrees. Friday, it was 75 when I got on the water, and there's no telling what it was by that afternoon, probably in the high or mid 80s, I should say. So right then and there, I said, man, I don't know. Everyone's been practicing, finding some fish, kind of, I guess, trying to set up to spawn, but I think it got too hot too quick, and I think a lot of the fish pulled out. And I know that's kind of what happened to us, and really all the fish that we did catch, we had 13 and a half. We did the math. We should have had probably 19 pounds and 20 pounds day one, and that's not us complaining or, cry me a river kind of thing. This is just letting you guys know kind of what could have been. And then we had 12 and a half day two, and we should have had 16. We lost about a 5-pounder. That would have helped. So 36 pounds is where we should have. We had the bites to end up with 36 pounds is what we should say. And all of our fish we were catching them pulling out of areas. Does that make sense? We went to some areas where we had bites in practice and just fished way out, and there was fish kind of staging on their way out, it seemed like. The other thing with the event was there were people doing all kinds of different stuff all over the lake. Me and Kelly, the first day, kind of fished polar opposite. We had some stuff across the lake and ran to one end of the lake, fished several areas, and then literally crossed the entire lake, right across the throat, right across the entire thing to another area. And although we didn't really improve our bag much there, that area that we found or that we ran to, we had more confidence. We knew there wasn't a lot of fish there, but we had more confidence that there were bigger fish there and that we would have a better chance at running into them, if that makes sense. So the next day we literally made that run and we never cranked the boat until it was time to leave. And it just didn't happen. We only had 12.5 pounds. Like I said, we lost that 5-pounder. And it was a grind of a day for us. Probably one of the most grindy days I've ever experienced on the lake. I think we had 7 bites all day. Yeah, we did. I think we had 7 bites all day and we lost 2 of them. So we only had those 5 fish in the boat. And again, we weren't making runs. We were sitting in this 100-yard stretch all day, which is how you win events on Okeechobee. Sometimes it just didn't work out for us that day. So again, slick calm, absolutely really no wind for 2 days. Clear skies. It was full moon, which if we would have had fish on beds, probably, if fish would have pulled in to spawn, I should say, for this event, probably would have been a slugfest. But again, you could be off by this much on Okeechobee conditions-wise or area, whatever, and it just doesn't show out like it should. But still, Califano had 50 pounds, which was crazy. I never saw them at all. But what I was going to say was, what I was getting to on our gameplay, I mean, we really didn't fish around a lot of boats at all. One area we fished, we saw 1 boat, we made a move, we saw 3, made another room, saw another move, saw another 3. So people were spread out all across the lake, which was awesome to see. That's always good, you know, when you're not having to fish in a crowd. And there wasn't that big area of fish. Like, that's what people have to understand. And when we go to these meetings and talk about Lake Okeechobee, people think we're the anglers so that we want the fishing to be better. And really, the least healthy the lake is, the more unhealthy the lake is, sometimes the better it like fishes in a tournament, because all of these fish get congregated into 1 or 2 areas on the lake, which means all the boats get congregated in there, but all the fish are kind of just really trying to hold in this area, and you're just beating them up, and you're seeing these 36, 37-pound bags because you're just fishing for the mass majority of fish that are in these areas. Whereas when the lake's healthy and it's looking like it is, sometimes the tournament weights aren't as big, but everyone's spread out and it's not as much pressure on the fish. So that was really cool to see. And there were still some really big fish caught, some good bags caught overall, but it was a grinder of an event, no matter what, however you look at it. So congrats to the winners. Califano's been doing this a long time, and yeah, they had an awesome event. Matt and Nick came up just short. They thought they had it won at the very end. Apparently, I haven't really talked to them that much, but I guess in the last 30 seconds of fishing, they caught 2 6.5-pounders, back-to-back flips, and they thought that's usually what happens when you have an event won, and they lost by 3/4 of a pound, which sucks, but they'll get them. I mean, they've won everything there is to win out here pretty much anyway, but I'm sure you'll see more of them probably here in the Classic or what have you. But cool event, and I'm ready for the Classic, and I'm ready for the Lake and Trail event. It was a grinder. I was really down in the dumps when we got done. It wasn't down in the dumps, but I was just exhausted, is what I should say. But I'm ready to get back out there. Speaking of events, the EQ, man, I don't know what's going to happen. So their practice started on Sunday while we were out fishing our event. Only saw a few of the guys running around, really. I don't know how many boats are in this tournament. I talked to Brandon McMillan. I asked him, and he said, I don't even remember because some people have dropped out. So he really doesn't know. And yeah, so I don't know how many people there are, but I don't think it's really that many. But I don't really know how this is going to go because they got hit with this front that came through. So Sunday it was 100,000 degrees, slick calm, brutal hot, and these guys were able to run around everywhere and anywhere they wanted to go. Monday, being yesterday, no, I'm sorry. Today's Wednesday. My days are all messed up. So Monday I had a trip. I actually moved my buddy Mark from Tuesday to Monday morning. We went out, and really low pressure, just muggy, misty. You knew that front was coming, and we got about 3 hours in of fairly good fishing and in stable conditions before that wind just started howling and that temp started dropping, and you could feel it. Saw a lot of guys out practicing. We fished until about noon, until we pretty much got blown off the lake, and that temperature just plummeted. I know I woke up yesterday morning and I saw Mark Menendez put on his story that the water temp dropped 14 degrees overnight, which is, man, I tell my clients if the water temp drops 5 degrees overnight, you're screwed. So I couldn't, I mean, 14, I believe it because it was 39 degrees here yesterday morning when I woke up. So, which is for South Florida is freezing cold. I think it was like 50 this morning. So it's starting to warm up, but I'm looking out this window right now and the wind is still blowing. So it really is going to come down to how these guys adjust, because anything that they did maybe find Sunday through Monday morning, I feel like is going to really move things around and change. Someone like a Mark Menendez, who's a veteran in the sport, he might be able to adjust. He might know what's coming. Some other people, like I said, Brandon's in the event. You know, like I said, I haven't talked to him, so I have no idea. I did not see him at all, you know, over practice, so I have no idea if he's found anything. And I'm trying to think. There's some other Florida pros in the event as well. So some of them might be able to make adjustments. And what I say make adjustments is, I feel like some of these guys are either veterans or Florida locals that are going to not practice the moment. They're going to practice for this event. So I would think, I mean, if I were in this event, I would look at it and say, I know what's coming weather-wise. So anything I find right now when it's stable and whatever it might be, really doesn't matter. I need to go look for something that's going to develop in the event and be proactive for this weather. And I'm assuming that's what a lot of these guys did. But then there's the other group, you got your other little sidebar of people that are just going to go fish canals and try to scope. And that's not my realm. That's not my world. I have no idea how that works or what that affects with these fish and what have you. But historically, over the last 4 or 5 years, they're probably going to catch them doing that someplace somewhere. So I don't know. I just kind of did the math. I'm going to say like 56 pounds wins for 3 days, like somewhere, or 55, somewhere around that 18 pounds a day. I'm guessing, but it's Lake Okeechobee. I really don't know what's going to happen. The weather's going to improve every day from now through Saturday, which I believe is the last day of competition. I believe today is their off day. I'm very curious to see what wins. I'm going to just go out there and say 56 pounds. I thought like 18 and change a day. I'll probably win it, but I could be totally off. But that's what I'm going to put out there, and we'll see what happens. I have no idea where or how. It seems like, the last two the Elite Series events were caught in canals. I mean, I know it was the river, but any of these other canals or these deeper water areas, now with scope, these people might be able to find them. But then again, in our local events, there are anglers that do fish that way and do fish these known addresses and haven't been catching them there. So I don't know if they're not biting in there, they can't find, whatever the case is. But hopefully, I'm hoping the lake kind of shows out a little bit, but you couldn't ask for worse conditions. But someone's going to catch them, someone will find them, but I do think it's going to be a grind. So that's my prediction, 56 pounds. And trying to think how I think. It's either going to be one scoping with a minnow or a jerkbait, or I'm hoping someone like Brandon pulls some old school knowledge out of his head or, out of his pocket and goes to a sneaky spot and catches them. Because obviously you want to see the hometown dude win. So hopefully that happens, but we'll see. I'm looking forward to watching. I think it's going to be live, I believe. So I'll be tuning into that. And also, I do have to run trips, I believe Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So again, though, there's not a huge amount of boats in this thing. So we'll be giving those guys room. And I might actually run my trips, at least my one Friday, I think I'm going to, in the afternoon. Let that water temp warm up a little bit anyway, and probably get out there by the time they get off. So that's really about it. As far as like the foreseeable future, man, like no matter what the lake level is, if you're dealing with conditions like we have today and yesterday specifically, it's going to be a tough lake to fish. Our fish do not do good. No fish throughout the country do good in cold front conditions. High barometric pressure, harsh wind, dropping water temp. I don't care where you're at, it's going to be tough. But right now, listen, I've been telling you guys, March through May is my favorite, and it still really is because it sets up to my style. But with this lake as low as it is and as clean as it is, really from now to February through May is going to be very good as long as you have good conditions. If that makes sense. I mean, you're just kind of throwing a dart at the board and hoping it hits. But we're not having to really deal with a lot of muddy water right now. We're not having to. You can kind of fish everywhere on the lake, which is awesome. And I think it's going to be a great season from now all the way through May. I really do. Getting to fish eelgrass again, getting to fish a bunch of, the shrimp grass, needle grass. The needle grass has been crazy. Like, if you go out, obviously you're trying to target these bigger fish, but what I've been doing with customers is when it does get tough and we're getting towards the end of the day, if we kind of exhausted all efforts trying to get those bigger bites, you have the needle grass to refer back to, and you can go in there and burn an easy swimmer or a swim jig, and you can catch yourself some fish. Not that you can't catch a big fish in the needle grass. Obviously you can, but it's just a bite getter. So those fish love that stuff. I don't know what it is about needle grass, but our bass love it, especially in the colder months. So getting to fish all that, it's a very healthy fishery right now. You do have to work a little bit hard, but there are some big ones being caught. So if you want to book a trip, let me know. We'll get you out there. If you want to do shiners, I can do that as well. A lot of people don't think I run shiner trips, but I will. It's just whatever you ask me to do, I can do. I've got gift cards available. If you want to get a gift card for a trip for somebody for Christmas or whatever it is, let me know. Just shoot me a text. My number is 954-871-9976. And we'll get you in the book, and we can get out there on Okeechobee, or I can get you in the book for this spring if you want to go try and mess with some snooker tarpon or some peacock bass down in the Everglades. I offer it all. So I appreciate you guys watching. Hopefully this helped you guys out. And look forward to these Bass EQ guys catching them. We'll really see what happens there, and hopefully the lake shows out. But stay warm, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Tight lines.